1817. Wren, First Love. I knew that I would be rewarded if I waited. Went out to the front yard to catch a glimpse of Lord Veery's sons on the path by the woods. They were the only people in the immediate area around my age, and I was so lonely for company. My own family lived so many miles off that visits from them were incredibly rare. I was a married lady now, after all. My husband's company should have been enough for me. Perhaps it may have been if I loved him, but I didn't. You must think me horrible, but the man was more than twice my age, 35 to my 17. He had yellow teeth and such horrid breath. I could hardly bear to hold a conversation with him. I was sure that I had done something terrible to be stuck in this life, but I couldn't tell you what that was. I had tried to be the perfect daughter, and didn't even fight my parents when they proposed this match. All the reasons that I should have stood up to them smiled at me through the window, gleaming yellow. I focused on the road in front of me. Having heard the Veery's voices, 3 figures appeared, yet only 2 voices spoke. I disagree wholeheartedly, dear brother. Why should we be made to follow something we don't in our heart and soul agree? The youngest brother said. He was always full of passion when he spoke, especially in that moment. Always listened for his distinct voice, tinged with a slight foreign accent that I could hear if I listened to him long enough. Neither of his brothers sounded like him. His priestly brother, the guest was nearly 30, spoke with the voice of a local gentleman. The largest of them, the middle brother, never uttered a word. One can easily be led astray by one's feelings, Robert. He must learn to temper himself. The eldest brother's sagely advice. Keep your temperance, Alexander. I want to live. He threw his hands into the air, smiled out to the wide skies above. That's what hope looks like, I thought. Robert and Alexander's silent brother watched a flock of birds take to air as Robert spun about, dancing in front of both his brothers. Enough of that. It harms no one. Robert appeared to catch my eye in all that leaping about, threw a wink in my direction when he wasn't facing his brothers, so that only I'd see him. Felt a small flush rise to my cheeks. Robert, where do you think you're going? Alexander snapped, sounding more like the boy's father than his brother. Toward his older brother and tore down the path by the yard I sat in. I held my breath, hoping he hadn't seen me, and that I had only imagined his wink. I wasn't even wearing a bonnet. I didn't like wearing them, though it was expectation. My dress wasn't as fine as it should have been either. They were noblemen's sons, after all. I should be modest and go hide in the house until they left the area. But secretly I agreed with Robert. If something is in your heart and soul, you need to chase after it. It's a highly unladylike philosophy, to be sure. I knew this, which held me back. I didn't go to the gate and wait for him. I was not yet so defiant. But I stayed in that garden where Robert would find me, rather than hiding in the house as I should have. He saw me as he came to the bottom of the hill where the path passed by our house. He regarded me with a look that I couldn't completely read. A hint of a smile played on his face, I dared to think. My father and brother neglected to tell me that we had new neighbors. I was at school until recently. Please forgive my ignorance. I'm Robert Veery, Lord Cecil Veery's youngest son. He offered in a warm, friendly manner. I admit I was drawn in. Mr. Finch wasn't new to this town, only I was. Robert already knew Mr. Finch, and did not like Lord Veery, nor his sons, mainly because they were aristocracy. His lordship thinks he's better than me because of all that wealth. I'm sure there's some dark secret that he's hiding. Wouldn't that be something, Serenity? One of the Veery boys was talking to me, and that was something. My name is Serenity Finch. I did a little curtsy out of habit. Robert looked impressed, as if he hadn't expected that. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Miss Finch. Robert took off his hat and did a small bow of his own to compliment my... Robert didn't realize I was Mr. Finch's wife. I could tell that when he looked at me, he saw a girl, not a married woman. The way he was looking at me was full of unspoken temptation. It's Mrs. Finch, actually. I felt I had to correct him. You are already a married woman, was all he could manage, for the notion thoroughly shocked him. I know I looked young. I had just turned 17 in June. He looked at me in a pitying way now. I didn't much like it. Yes, it is so, Mr. Veery, I said guardedly. Oh, don't call me that. Mr. Veery is my older brother, Alexander. It's such an old, stuffy-sounding address. Robert will do fine. You are just barely my elder, Miss Finch. I am now just 16, but I'll soon be 17, too. He talked to me as if we knew each other. I liked that, though I knew I should be offended by his audacity to address me in such a familiar manner. Whatever moment we could have had was ruined by Alexander's admonishment of his wayward brother. Alexander and Harold, that was the third brother's name, I'd later learn, appeared on the path behind Robert. Get away from her, Robert. Leave Mrs. Finch alone. I'm quite sure she doesn't want to be pestered. Robert rolled his azure eyes at his brother's command, but still stepped away from the gate. Good day, Miss Finch. Robert tipped his hat. Serenity, I quietly insisted. As you say, Serenity, fare thee well. He winked at me as he departed. I watched him go back toward the path. He looped his arm through his silent brothers and made faces at Alexander's back. His eldest brother hadn't seen him, otherwise more scolding would have followed. I held in my laughter. I'm sure Robert had been rebuked enough today without adding to it. I'm quite sorry about Robert, Mrs. Finch. He just came home from school, and there aren't any people his age in the area with whom he can socialize. I'm sure he's bored with us. That's no reason he should forget his manners. If he's been bothering you, I will see to it that he never comes here again. Alexander apologized, as if Robert were some terrible nuisance plaguing me. Please don't feel so troubled, Mr. Veery. Robert just kindly spoke with me. No harm in that. I assure you that he was no burden to me. I smiled pleasantly. The last thing I wanted was Robert's banishment. I acted incredibly sweet, as Alexander would want to see me, Mr. Finch's pretty little wife. He was far too proper to see me as anything else. Robert looked at me, one auburn eyebrow arched high. Maybe he knew I was acting. Maybe he didn't. Regardless, he seemed intrigued by my defending him against Alexander's notions. He still stood close enough to overhear my conversation with his brother. Very well, good day, Mrs. Finch, Alexander said with a tip of his hat, polite as one would expect. Good day, Mr. Veery. He left, shooing his two younger brothers back up the path ahead of him, over the hill and out of sight.